The grand lecture hall of the Galactic Science Academy sparkled like a sea of stars, its crystalline walls refracting the soft ambient light into countless rainbow patterns. Professor Zix 427 adjusted his atmospheric regulator, his four tentacles moving with practiced precision across the device's controls. The growing murmur of the assembled academics, representing over 300 species from across the known galaxy, created a symphony of clicks, whistles, and electromagnetic pulses. As the professor's hover platform ascended to the central speaking position, he noticed several members of the High Council shifting uncomfortably in their environment pods. Their discomfort was understandable. No one had ever dared to challenge the established classification system for sentient species, let alone suggest that the relatively new arrival of humans deserved special attention. The massive holographic displays hummed to life around him, creating a sphere of light that would allow even the methane-breathing Kirkuk in the back row to see clearly. Professor Zix 427 felt his chromatophores ripple with anticipation, sending waves of scholarly purple across his skin. Esteemed colleagues, he began, his universal translator perfectly modulating his words for each species present. 30 years ago, I made a mistake that nearly cost me my life. That mistake was assuming I understood humans. The professor gestured with his upper right tentacle, and the holographic display filled with images of Earth. We all know the standard data. Gravity, 9.8 meters per second squared. Atmosphere, nitrogen-oxygen mix, primary sentient species, bipedal mammals with limited natural defenses and no significant evolutionary advantages. He paused, allowing his next words to carry the weight they deserved. And yet, what I discovered on my first field research trip changed everything I thought I knew about xenobiology. The images shifted to show a recording from that fateful day. A younger Zix 427 stood in what appeared to be a human park, his environmental suit gleaming in the sunlight. As the assembled academics watched, a small human juvenile approached him, pointing excitedly. Within moments, more humans gathered, not with fear or aggression, but with open curiosity. They began asking questions, offering food, and attempting to communicate despite the language barrier. Notice, the professor highlighted, his tentacles circling specific details in the hologram, how rapidly they adapted to my presence. No other species in our records has ever demonstrated such immediate acceptance of the unknown. But this was just the beginning. The display changed again, showing a series of data points that made several of the silicon-based life forms in the audience emit startled crystalline chimes. These readings show the neurological activity of the humans during our first contact. Look at the pattern recognition speed, the rapid formation of new neural pathways, the instant development of novel communication attempts. Professor Zix 427 moved to the heart of his presentation. We classified humans as a Category 3 species because they fit our standard metrics. Limited speed, strength, and natural weapons. No inherent psychic abilities. No significant technological advantages at first contact. His skin rippled with academic excitement. But we were measuring the wrong things entirely. The holographic display erupted with new data, causing even the most skeptical council members to extend their sensory organs in surprise. What you're seeing is not a mistake. In just 50 years since first contact, humans have not only adapted to every environment we've shared with them, they've helped other species adapt as well. They've solved engineering problems that puzzled the finest minds of the collective for centuries, not through superior intelligence, but through what they call thinking outside the box. A concept so unique, we still don't have a proper translation for it. As the assembled academics processed this information, Professor Zix 427's final introductory statement echoed through the hall. Today, I will demonstrate why our traditional classification system needs complete revision, and why humans represent something entirely new in our understanding of life itself. They are not just another species joining the galactic community. They are catalysts of change, innovation, and evolution. And most remarkably, they have no idea they're doing it. Professor Zix 427's chromatophores shifted to a deep azure as he manipulated the holographic controls with practiced grace. The image of First Contact Day materialized around the assembled academics, the massive human space station Harmony Point rotating slowly against the backdrop of Earth's moon. We all remember this moment. The professor's words resonated through various translation fields. What you don't know is what happened in the following 24 hours that changed my perspective forever. The hologram zoomed in on the first diplomatic meeting. The human representatives sat across from the Galactic Council's chosen ambassadors, their faces displaying what the professor had learned to recognize as barely contained excitement. Notice the human diplomatic team. He gestured with his upper left tentacle. Standard protocol suggested a minimum adaptation period of 3 solar cycles before attempting complex cultural exchange. The humans requested to begin immediately. He paused, letting the implications sink in. More remarkably, they had already begun learning. The display shifted to a series of video clips, a human diplomat correctly performing the complex greeting ritual of the crystalline axle. Another official skillfully navigating the intricate silence patterns required for void-born communication. A third demonstrating perfect mastery of the skull-colored emotion language after only 6 hours of exposure. This, Professor Zix 427 emphasized, his skin rippling with scholarly enthusiasm, is what we missed in our initial classification. Humans don't just learn. They intuitively grasp the underlying principles of alien communication methods they've never encountered before. The audience stirred as the professor brought up a new data set. Within the first month of contact, human linguistic experts had created a preliminary translation matrix for 97% of known galactic languages. For comparison, our most advanced AI systems require 3 years to achieve similar results. He moved to the next section of his presentation, showing the first human trade negotiations. Watch carefully, he instructed, highlighting specific moments. The human representatives aren't just engaging in trade, they're building relationships. Each conversation contains elements of what they call small talk, a seemingly inefficient practice that serves a crucial social function we're only beginning to understand. The holographic display shifted to show the rapid expansion of human influence across the galaxy. Trade routes that had remained static for millennia were suddenly buzzing with new activity. Species that had never cooperated were establishing joint ventures with human partners. Look at this pattern. Professor Zix 427 traced the flow of data with his tentacle. Traditional species expansion follows a linear path of colonial development. Human expansion follows what they call a web pattern. They don't just settle new areas, they connect existing ones in ways we never considered. The professor projected a series of economic graphs that caused several council members to emit startled pheromones. Within 5 years of first contact, human-influenced trade routes showed a 300% increase in efficiency. But more importantly, look at the social connection indicators. The display filled with countless lines connecting different species and sectors. Humans don't just trade goods and services. They trade ideas, cultures, and possibilities. They ask questions that never occurred to us, propose solutions that seem impossible until they prove otherwise, and consistently turn limitations into opportunities. Professor Zix 427's skin shifted to a thoughtful shade of violet. But the most remarkable aspect of these early interactions wasn't the speed of human adaptation. It was their effect on other species. Wherever humans established connections, other species began displaying accelerated rates of innovation and cultural exchange. He brought up one final image from those early days, a human child teaching a void-born youngling to play a simple game with colored blocks, both creatures laughing in their own ways. This, he said softly, is the moment I realized we weren't just witnessing the integration of a new species into the galactic community. We were seeing the beginning of something entirely new, a species that doesn't just adapt to its environment, but catalyzes adaptation in others. And they were just getting started. Professor Zix 427's tentacles danced across the holographic controls, bringing up a three-dimensional anatomical model of a human being. The image rotated slowly in the center of the lecture hall, drawing curious electromagnetic pulses from the silicon-based life forms in attendance. Now we come to what initially appears to be humanity's greatest weakness, their physical form. The professor's chromatophores shifted to a deep green of analytical focus. By conventional metrics, humans are unremarkable. No natural armor, no claws, no venom, limited sensory capacity, and relatively modest strength compared to many spacefaring species. The hologram split into multiple comparison charts. A Krathax warrior can lift 10 times what a human can. A Zenth sprinter can outpace their fastest athletes. A Moravian's natural armor can withstand small arms fire. He paused, letting his next words resonate through the translation fields. And yet, humans consistently outperform all these species in real-world situations. The display shifted to footage from the Great Mineral Rush of Kepler 186. A human mining team worked alongside various alien species in the harsh conditions of the desert planet. Observe, the professor highlighted specific details. The Krathax worker must rest every 2 hours. The human continues for 6. The Zenth requires frequent cooling periods. The human simply drinks water and persists. Murmurs rippled through the audience as the professor brought up new data. What you're seeing isn't some genetic enhancement or technological assistance. This is standard human endurance. They call it persistence hunting, an evolutionary strategy that lets them continue long after stronger, faster creatures must rest. The hologram shifted to show medical scans. Look at their recovery capabilities. A broken bone. They grow new bone tissue. Damaged muscle. It rebuilds stronger than before. Even their neural pathways adapt and reroute around injuries. Professor Zix 427's skin rippled with excitement. They don't just heal, they improve. He brought up footage from various human sporting events, causing several council members to lean forward in their environment pods. These activities are what humans call games and sports. They deliberately push their physical limits for recreation. When they reach a supposed physical barrier, they don't accept it. They train until they break through it. The display showed Olympic records over the past century. Every line you see represents what humans once considered the absolute peak of physical achievement. Every line has been broken, often by significant margins. They don't just adapt to overcome their limitations. They refuse to accept that limitations are permanent. Professor Zix 427 moved to his most startling revelation about human physical capabilities. The hologram displayed data from the Ganymede incident, where a human maintenance worker had survived in space for nearly 3 minutes without a pressure suit. By all known biological principles, this should have been fatal. Instead, the human not only survived, but managed to save 2 other crew members before reaching safety. The audience watched in stunned silence as the professor brought up case after case of humans surviving seemingly unsurvivable situations. Their bodies possessed redundant systems we're only beginning to understand. Their ability to function under extreme stress exceeds all predictive models. But most remarkably, they can improvise physical solutions that no other species would attempt. He displayed footage of a human child instinctively using leverage to move a weight that should have been impossible for them to shift. They understand physics at an intuitive level that most species require advanced education to grasp. Their problem-solving abilities aren't limited to their minds. Their entire bodies are tools for overcoming challenges. The professor's chromatophores pulsed with scholarly excitement as he concluded this section. We categorized humans as physically unremarkable because we measured individual attributes. What we failed to understand was that human physical capability isn't about specialized superiority, it's about unlimited adaptability. They don't excel at everything, but they can become competent at anything. And most importantly, they never stop trying to exceed their own limits. Professor Zix 427's skin rippled with a blend of coral and gold as he prepared to address what he considered the most fascinating aspect of human nature. The holographic display shifted to show a complex neural mapping of human thought patterns. "What you're seeing," he explained, gesturing with his upper tentacles, "is something unique in our galactic records, a human mind solving a problem." The display animated, showing cascading patterns of neural activity. Notice how they don't follow logical progression paths. Their thoughts jump, connect seemingly unrelated concepts, and create patterns we're still trying to understand. The professor brought up a side-by-side comparison of problem-solving approaches. On the left, you see how our most advanced AI systems approach challenges, methodically, logically, exploring each possibility in sequence. On the right, a human mind. The audience watched as the human neural patterns exploded in seemingly chaotic directions before suddenly converging on solutions. "We initially mistook this for mental instability," Professor Zix 427 admitted, his chromatophores showing a tinge of academic humility. "But observe what happens when we present a human with an impossible scenario." The hologram displayed a standard galactic engineering test, a puzzle designed to have no solution. The neural patterns flared again, but this time the professor highlighted something remarkable. They don't accept the parameters of the problem. Where other species see unchangeable rules, humans see suggestions. They don't try to solve the impossible puzzle, they rewrite the rules that make it impossible. He brought up footage from the Centauri Deep Space Station. This maintenance system was designed by our finest engineers to be perfectly efficient. When humans arrived, they didn't just improve it, they completely reimagined its purpose. The audience watched as human engineers transformed a simple repair system into a multi-function platform that could also conduct research, assist with navigation, and even create art. But the truly remarkable aspect isn't their problem-solving ability. The professor continued, his skin shifting to a deep indigo of wonder. It's their emotional connection to innovation. The display showed human children in a learning environment, their faces lit with what he had learned to recognize as joy. Humans don't just solve problems because they need to, they solve them because they want to. They derive emotional satisfaction from the act of creation itself. He displayed a series of human inventions that served no practical purpose beyond entertainment. They call this playing and having fun, concepts that have proven surprisingly difficult to translate into most galactic languages. The hologram shifted to show human responses to various scenarios. When faced with a challenge, humans experience a physiological response that most species associate with stress or fear. But in humans, this same response can trigger heightened performance and what they call excitement. The professor's tentacles moved expressively as he explained. They actually seek out situations that trigger this response. They deliberately place themselves in scenarios that require innovation. He brought up data from human entertainment systems. They create simulated challenges for recreation. They invent fictional problems to solve. They actively seek out new puzzles, new obstacles, new opportunities to innovate. The display showed humans engaged in various problem-solving games, their neural patterns lighting up with pleasure as they encountered and overcame difficulties. This, Professor Zix 427 emphasized, is why traditional metrics fail to capture human potential. We measure problem-solving capability as a survival trait. For humans, it's not just about survival, it's a fundamental source of joy. They don't just adapt because they must, they adapt because they love to adapt. The professor's skin pulsed with academic excitement as he prepared to transition to his next point. And this brings us to perhaps their most remarkable characteristic, their ability to share this innovative spirit with other species, transforming not just problems, but entire civilizations in ways we never imagined possible. Professor Zix 427 paused briefly, his chromatophores shifting to a contemplative shade of turquoise. The holographic display around him transformed to show a stunning visualization of human technological advancement over the past century. What you're seeing, he gestured with his lower tentacles, represents something unprecedented in galactic history. Most species follow a linear path of technological development, mastering one field before moving to the next. The display split into multiple streams of advancement. Humans, however, pursue everything simultaneously. The audience watched as lines of progress intertwined and crossed, creating a complex web of innovation. When humans discovered nuclear fusion, they didn't just apply it to power generation. Within decades, they had integrated fusion concepts into propulsion, medical treatments, and even cuisine. His skin rippled with academic amazement. They called it thinking outside the box, a concept so uniquely human that our universal translators still struggle with its full meaning. The professor brought up footage from various human learning institutions. This is where it begins, he explained, highlighting a classroom of young humans. From their earliest years, humans are encouraged to question everything. Watch this interaction. The hologram focused on a small human asking their instructor why the sky was blue. In most species, such questioning would be seen as challenging authority. But humans? His chromatophores pulsed with excitement. They reward curiosity. They celebrate it. More remarkably, they encourage questions that have no immediate practical value. The display shifted to show human research facilities. Observe their approach to scientific discovery. While most species focus on practical applications, humans frequently pursue knowledge simply because, in their words, it would be cool. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their environmental pods at such an impractical motivation. But here's the truly remarkable part. Professor Zix 427 continued, bringing up new data streams. These seemingly impractical pursuits consistently lead to revolutionary breakthroughs. Their quantum communication network, originally developed by researchers studying how birds navigate. Their revolutionary medical nanobots, inspired by someone watching falling leaves. The hologram expanded to show the impact of human achievement philosophy on other species. When humans joined the Galactic Science Coalition, they introduced something unprecedented, the concept of open-source research. The professor's skin shifted to a deep purple of academic significance. They freely shared their discoveries, encouraged collaboration across species barriers, and treated failure not as a setback, but as valuable data. He displayed statistics that caused several audience members to emit startled pheromones. In the 50 years since first contact, fields that had remained stagnant for millennia have advanced more than in the previous 1,000 years combined. Not because humans are more intelligent, but because they changed how we think about achievement itself. The professor brought up images from human entertainment media. They create stories about impossible achievements, then work to make them possible. They dream of things that can't exist, then find ways to exist them. When told something is impossible, they don't accept it. They ask why not, and then attempt it anyway. He displayed footage from a human space station where a team of mixed species worked on an experimental drive system. Notice how the human engineers approach each failure. Instead of disappointment, they show excitement. Every failed attempt teaches them something new, brings them closer to their goal. They have a saying, failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of success. Professor Zix 427's chromatophores shifted to a bright gold of revelation as he prepared his conclusion for this section. We classified their achievement drive as standard because we measured success rates. What we failed to understand was that humans don't just achieve goals. They continuously redefine what achievement means, not just for themselves, but for every species they encounter. They don't just raise the bar. They question why there needs to be a bar at all. Professor Zix 427's chromatophores shimmered with a warm rose gold as he prepared to address what he considered the most remarkable aspect of human nature. The holographic display transformed to show a series of interactions between humans and various alien species across different space stations and colonies. "What you're about to witness," he began, his tentacles moving with careful precision, "defies every social development model we've established over 10,000 years of galactic civilization." The first scene played, showing a human sharing their meal with a crystalline Axel researcher. Notice how the human adapts their eating schedule to match their colleague's photosynthesis cycle. Not because they must, but because they want to share the experience. The professor brought up a complex chart of interspecies relationships. Traditional models predict that species will naturally gravitate toward those most similar to themselves. Humans completely disrupt this pattern. The display highlighted countless connections between humans and radically different life forms. They don't seek similarity, they celebrate differences. A new scene materialized, showing the interior of the Proxima Centauri research station. "Observe this living space," he directed, his upper tentacles pointing to various modifications. Humans redesigned their quarters to accommodate visitors from 12 different environmental requirements. When asked why, they simply stated they wanted to have friends over for dinner, a concept that has revolutionized our understanding of social bonds. The hologram shifted to show medical data. This is perhaps the most fascinating aspect, Professor Zix 427 continued, his skin pulsing with academic excitement. Humans release oxytocin, their bonding hormone, not just when interacting with their own species, but with any being they form an emotional connection with. They literally rewire their brain chemistry to create family bonds with other species. He displayed footage from various human-alien interactions. They assign names to autonomous maintenance robots. They create stories about their research equipment. They speak to plants while gardening. His chromatophores flickered with amazement. At first, we thought this was a sign of mental instability. Now we understand. Humans have an innate need to connect with everything around them. The professor brought up data from long-term space missions. In isolated conditions, most species gradually withdraw into themselves. Humans do the opposite. They actively seek to build stronger connections. They create celebrations, share cultural practices, and invent new traditions that blend different species' customs. A series of timestamps appeared, showing the evolution of various space stations. Watch how human presence transforms these environments. Within months of their arrival, common areas begin to appear. Spaces originally designed for pure functionality become gathering places. They create what they call communities, social networks that transcend species boundaries. The hologram displayed scenes from various diplomatic meetings. Humans approach formal negotiations differently, Professor Zix 427 explained. Where other species focus purely on objectives, humans build relationships first. They share stories, jokes, and personal details. Behavior we initially dismissed as inefficient. We now understand this small talk serves a crucial function in creating lasting bonds. He brought up success rates from various interspecies projects. Teams with human members show a 47% higher rate of successful collaboration, not because humans are inherently better at the work, but because they excel at bringing diverse groups together. They have an extraordinary ability to find common ground where none seem to exist. Professor Zix 427's skin shifted to a deep sapphire of revelation as he prepared to conclude this section. But perhaps most remarkable is how this ability spreads. Species working with humans begin to adopt similar social patterns. They become more open to connection, more willing to bridge differences. Humans don't just adapt to the galaxy, they teach the galaxy to adapt, creating networks of understanding that transcend biological barriers. They make the impossible feel inevitable simply by believing it should be so. Professor Zix 427's chromatophores shifted to a deep cosmic blue as the holographic display expanded to encompass the entire lecture hall. The assembled academics found themselves surrounded by a three-dimensional map of the galaxy, alive with flowing streams of data and interconnected networks. What you're seeing, the professor gestured with all four tentacles, is not just a map of human expansion. It's a visualization of something unprecedented in galactic history, the emergence of a new type of civilization. Points of light bloomed across the display, representing various human-influenced sectors. 50 years ago, we predicted human development would follow standard colonial patterns. He highlighted traditional expansion routes in contrast. Instead, they created this. The hologram pulsed with countless interconnected nodes, showing trade routes, cultural exchanges, and scientific collaborations spanning vast distances. Notice these patterns. Professor Zix 427 traced a complex web of connections. Humans don't just establish outposts, they create nexus points where different species converge. Each human settlement becomes a catalyst for regional development. The display zoomed in on a recently established human space station near the Carina Nebula. This station began as a simple refueling post. Within 2 years, it had become a hub for 15 different species, none of whom had significant contact before. The professor's skin rippled with academic excitement as he showed time-lapse footage of the station's evolution. They didn't achieve this through superior technology or resources, but through what they call bringing people together. The hologram shifted to display economic data. Traditional models predicted economic competition would lead to conflict. Instead, human influence has created what they call synergy, a concept where collaboration produces better results than competition. Charts showed exponential growth in sectors where humans had introduced their cooperative approaches. But the most remarkable aspect isn't the speed of these changes. Professor Zix 427 continued, bringing up new data streams. It's how they spread beyond human-controlled areas. The display highlighted regions where species had adopted human practices without direct human presence. Their methods are being voluntarily embraced across the galaxy. He showed footage from various alien worlds. Species that never showed interest in space exploration are now building ships. Civilizations that remained isolated for millennia are seeking cultural exchanges. Even the silicon-based crystalline collective, known for their rigid adherence to tradition, have begun incorporating human-inspired innovations. The professor's chromatophores pulsed with intensity as he revealed his next point. We're witnessing the emergence of what humans call an open society on a galactic scale. Information flows freely across species barriers. Technological advances are shared rather than hoarded. Cultural exchange is celebrated rather than feared. The hologram displayed a series of breakthrough moments in recent galactic history. Each of these achievements was considered impossible by traditional standards. Yet humans didn't just make them possible, they made them seem inevitable. The audience watched as barriers between species dissolved, replaced by networks of cooperation and mutual understanding. This brings us to a crucial realization. Professor Zix 427's skin shifted to a deep violet of profound significance. Humans aren't just participating in galactic civilization, they're transforming how civilization itself functions. Their influence spreads not through force or dominance, but through inspiration and possibility. He brought up one final visualization, a predictive model of galactic development over the next century. According to every established metric, this level of cooperation and advancement should be impossible. Yet it's happening, spreading across space like a cascade of awakening potential. Humans don't just adapt to the universe, they inspire the universe to adapt with them. They don't just solve problems, they teach others to become problem solvers. Professor Zix 427's chromatophores shifted through a rainbow of colors before settling into a brilliant gold, reflecting the significance of his final revelations. The holographic display dimmed momentarily before expanding into a breathtaking visualization of the entire known universe. Esteemed colleagues, his voice resonated through the translation fields. We've spent centuries searching the cosmos for apex predators, expecting to find beings of overwhelming physical or technological superiority. He paused, his tentacles moving with deliberate grace. We were looking for the wrong things. The display transformed, showing countless scenes of human interaction across the galaxy. Humans aren't apex predators because they're the strongest, the fastest, or the most advanced. They're apex predators because they make everything around them stronger. The hologram highlighted various species working together in ways that would have been impossible before human contact. Consider this paradox. Professor Zix 427 continued, bringing up comparative data. Every species that has embraced human influence has experienced unprecedented growth and development. Yet humans don't rule these species. They elevate them. The display showed dozens of worlds where human ideas had sparked revolutionary advances. They possess a quality we never thought to measure. His skin pulsed with academic fervor. Humans don't seek to dominate the universe. They seek to enhance it. Where we expected conquest, they offered collaboration. Where we anticipated competition, they created community. The professor brought up footage from various human educational institutions. Look at how they teach their young. They don't just pass on knowledge. They inspire curiosity. They don't just solve problems. They nurture problem solvers. Every human child is taught that they can change the universe, and somehow they make others believe it too. The hologram shifted to show the transformation of various space stations and colonies. These changes weren't imposed by human authority. They spread naturally, adopted willingly, because humans don't just share their solutions, they share their dreams. His chromatophores rippled with wonder as he displayed scenes of interspecies collaboration. We've been asking the wrong questions, Professor Zix 427 declared, his tentacles moving expressively. We wondered how to classify humans in our existing system when we should have been rethinking the system itself. We tried to measure their potential by our standards, never realizing they were creating new standards. The display filled with images of human achievements, not just their own, but those they inspired in others. They turned competitors into collaborators, strangers into friends, and impossibilities into challenges. They didn't conquer the galaxy, they awakened it. This, he emphasized, his skin glowing with revelation, is what makes humans the true apex predators of the universe. Not their ability to dominate, but their talent for transformation. They don't just adapt to their environment. They inspire the environment to adapt with them. They don't just survive challenges. They teach others how to thrive alongside them. Professor Zix 427's chromatophores pulsed with a final surge of academic passion as he prepared his conclusion. The human approach to the universe isn't about being the best. It's about bringing out the best in everything they encounter. They don't want to rule the galaxy. They want to explore it, understand it, and make it better. The holographic display slowly faded to a single image. The Earth, seen from space, beautiful and seemingly insignificant against the cosmic backdrop. We classified humans as a Category 3 species because we measured their physical capabilities. We should have been measuring their capacity for inspiration. They aren't dangerous because of their strength or their technology. They're dangerous because they make everyone around them believe in impossible things, and then they make those impossible things happen. In conclusion, Professor Zix 427's voice carried clear conviction. Humans aren't apex predators despite their limitations. They're apex predators because of them. They turn their weaknesses into strengths, their curiosity into progress, and their dreams into a force that's transforming our entire galaxy. They didn't defeat the universe. They befriended it.